Hi, in this video we are going to talk about some of the basics of sets. So this chapter is about the idea of set theory, and remember we're doing this because it gives us an example of a mathematical structure that is different from the number system. So remember, the purpose of our class is to help us understand that mathematics is more than just computations with numbers. It's about structure and relationships. And set theory gives us an example of a structure that doesn't necessarily involve the number system. So let's work over to the document camera and talk about some examples of some basic properties of sets. So I'm going to post these notes to Canvas, and with every section of the text that we go through, try to remember what the key ideas are. Now here we've got a handful. We've got 6. Oh no, we have got 5 key ideas. Okay, so that makes things a little bit easier. And in this video we're going to talk about the first 3. Okay, now these first 2 ideas, the roster method and the set builder notation, are ways to describe sets. And we'll also talk about some special notation that we need to know when we're discussing sets. Okay, so just so we're all on the same page here, a set is any collection of elements, and furthermore, sets should be well defined, and that means we can definitively tell whether or not something belongs to the set. So an example might be the set of all natural numbers less than 6. So then we can all agree whether or not something is a natural number and whether or not it's less than 6, so we know whether or not it should be in the set. An example of a set, or an example of something that wouldn't be well defined, would be the set of all tall people, because different folks might have a different idea of what it means to be tall. Some folks might consider a tall person to be somebody over 6 feet. Other people might not consider somebody to be quote-unquote tall until they're like 6'2". Okay, so that would not be well defined. So let's do an example of a set that we can describe with the roster method. Okay, so in this example we're going to use the roster method to write the set of months starting with the letter A. Okay, now when you're specifying a set using the roster method, what you do is you start with a brace here, and then you simply list the elements in the set. Okay, so roster means essentially the same thing it means in everyday life. Okay, so we're just going to list out what is in the set. And let me see here, I believe April, that's a month that starts with the letter A. And August, and let me see, I think that's it, right? You've got January, February, March, April, that's in there, May, June, July, August, we got that, September, October, November, December. Okay, so those are the only 2 that start with A, and then we close it off there. Okay, so curly braces indicate that we are giving the elements of a set. Okay, so the roster method, very easy. You just list the elements in the set. So before we can talk about the set builder notation, we need a way to talk about a few special sets that will come up over and over again. So the set of natural numbers is the set of counting numbers starting with 1 and going on forever. Okay, naturally I can't really list them all, but this pattern continues. Next one would be 6 and 7, right? That's what the 3 dots mean. That means whatever pattern we've established here continues. The whole numbers are the natural numbers together with 0. Okay, so you have the natural numbers. The whole numbers is a slightly bigger set. And you have the integers, which is the set of whole numbers together with their negatives. This is a symbol that you'll see on WebAssign. It looks kind of like an E, and that is short for is an element of. So for an example of how to use that in context, -6 is an element of the integers. Okay, the integers are usually denoted with an I in this book. 4 is an element of the whole numbers. 0 is not an element of the natural numbers. Okay, notice if we put a slash through that symbol, it just means that this is not true. Okay, up here you can see that the natural number starts with 1. Okay, so those are some special symbols that you'll need to understand, because there are certain sets where it's easier to write out a description rather than to list the elements. And if we're doing that, we're talking about set builder notation. Okay, so with set builder notation, we are trying to describe the elements of a set rather than trying to list the elements of a set. So let me give you an example of working in set builder notation. So this is the set. Now I'm going to write it down in the roster method, and then I'm going to convert it to set builder notation. Okay. So the set builder notation for this, okay, so we can see that we've got whole numbers here, right, because we've got 0. So my set builder notation would be x is a whole number such that x is even and less than 12. Okay, so I could describe this set by saying that it is even whole numbers less than 12. Okay, now even though I've written the thing 2 different ways, they're describing the same set. The set builder notation is saying I want even whole numbers and I want them to be less than 12, and that's what this set is here. Okay, so x is an element of the whole numbers and x is even and less than 12. Okay, now in this particular case, writing with the set builder notation was actually longer than with the roster method, but in a lot of cases we won't actually be able to give a set using the roster method. If the set is especially large, or if the set is infinite, then the roster method may be impossible. So we would have to go to set builder notation. For example, if I wanted to talk about the set of all freshman students at SWASU, I mean, I guess it's possible that I could list out their names, but it would be a very long list, so it wouldn't be that helpful. It's probably better to just describe it, which is set builder notation. So we'd be talking about the set of all x, such that x is a freshman at Southwestern. In fact, let me write that down here so we have it. So the set of all students x, such that x is a SWOSU freshman. Okay, so that's a way to describe that set using set builder notation. So one thing to note is that we still use the braces, and then we have this little bar here, so the set of all x such that x is a SWOSU freshman. So over here we have a description or a condition that must be met in order for your element to belong to our set. Okay, so just a quick review and recap. We talked about the roster method, which is a way to describe sets, and very simple, you simply list the elements that belong to the set using the roster method. The alternative to the roster method is called set builder notation, and in set builder notation you have to describe a condition that an element must meet in order to belong to the set. We also talked about a little bit of special notation. N stands for the set of natural numbers, W for whole numbers. We're going to use I for the set of integers, and remember that little special symbol that looks like an E for element.